Hello, everybody. My presentation will consist of 4 items by providing a short background on e-waste and on PACE, its goals of this initiative, the mission statement, the scope and activities. It identifies the current membership, the working structure, and the future plans. Concerning e-waste, this issue of environmentally sound management of e-waste was raised during COP6 in 2002 and then followed up by the Nairobi Declaration during COP8. Also, the 1999 Basel Declaration on environmentally sound management recognized the importance of partnership with the private sector and non-governmental organizations. The partnership is also consistent with the mandate given to the Basel Convention Secretariat to enter into constructive partnership with industry. PACE partnership is considered by many parties to be the second such public-private partnership under the Basel Convention after the Mobile Phone Partnership Initiative. During COP9 in Bali in 2008, Partnership for Action on Computing Equipment was launched after parties adopted Decision 99. All the preparatory work leading to this adoption was done by a small interim group on PACE. This interim group on PACE prepared a document for consideration by parties during COP9, which included the mission statement, scope, working principles, and activities, which was attached to the COP9 decision as Annex 1. As you can see, the mission is to increase environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment, taking into account social responsibility, the concept of sustainable development, and promoting information sharing on life cycle thinking. And the scope of PACE covers personal computer and associated displays, printers, and peripherals. The working principles of PACE. The interim group on PACE proposed the following 3 working principles: to promote dialogue amongst governments, industry, NGO, and academia, to seek innovative solutions, and the coordination and cooperation as appropriate with other bodies involved in e-waste activities. The activities under PACE, there were 4 priority activities identified under PACE, and it was recommended to start with the first 3 activities and defer the one on awareness raising and training until a later date. It was since then established with the Project Group 4.1, and the same with Project Group 6.1 on transboundary movements, but we will see that later in the presentation. Concerning PACE membership, PACE members are mainly coming from 25 parties and 1 signatory to the Basel Convention, 11 Basel Convention regional centers, 9 research and academic institutions and other UN bodies, and 15 NGOs, industry, and industry associations. The working structure of PACE. After the PACE working group was established, its terms of reference were approved, and now 6 project groups were also established as level 2 groups as per this organizational structure. It should be noted that all terms of reference were developed for all these project groups and were approved by the PACE working group. Currently, The PACE projects that have been finalized and adopted are the report on environmentally sound management criteria recommendation, 2 guidelines, procedures on transboundary movement of computing equipment, and glossary of terms for PACE. We can also mention that we had 4 e-waste assessments in 4 different countries. We have 2 pilot projects that are about to start, and several workshops were organized by different BCRCs in different regions concerning PACE guidelines. The guidance document on environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment will be the main output from PACE, and it will contain an executive summary and recommendations taken from the following PACE reports: the report on environmentally sound management criteria recommendation, guidance on transboundary movement procedure, guideline on environmentally sound testing, refurbishment, and repair of used computing equipment, guideline on environmentally sound material recovery and recycling of end-of-life computing equipment, and the glossary of terms. Concerning material recovery and recycling, which in fact the theme of extended producer responsibility, which is our theme today, it's coming from, it is a concept that you can find in this guideline, the guideline on environmentally sound material recovery and recycling. And this is already on our web page. The future plans, I will not go too much into details because everything will be discussed at the next COP in 2 weeks. But we still have to develop several guidelines. And as I told you before, we also have pilot projects that we want to develop in different regions of the world. We have to work on awareness raising, and for example, this webinar is the result of our awareness raising strategy, and there will be different webinars that will be proposed in the coming year. And the new tasks, of course, they will be discussed at next COP. I thank you for your attention, and please visit our web site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick, for your great presentation. Now I'll pass the board to our next presenter, Dimitri Stribos. Dimitri, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay. Hello to everybody. I hope you all can hear me well. Firstly, I will give a short introduction on extended producer responsibility, and afterwards I will be talking about the implementation of this concept in Flanders and our WE policy. So first on the concept of extended producer responsibility. It has already been defined in the 90s, where it was defined as a strategy to reach an environmental objective of decreased total environmental impact of a product by making the manufacturer of the product responsible for the entire life cycle of the product, and especially for take-back, recycling, and final disposal of the product. I'm sorry, does everybody hear me well? I get a reaction that it's not so clear. What is important in EPR is that the responsibility is shifted upstreams towards the producer and away from municipalities. So when there is an EPR, okay, I will try to volume up. Position. So I'm afraid I can't put it louder, I think. So I hope it's okay if I continue. So here an example to make this point. You see two producers, and the first producer has a product price of 510 and the second of 500. But the producer B has a waste management cost that is 4 times as high as producer A. Now, without an EPR policy, the product of producer B is much lower. It's lower than producer A, because the waste cost is paid by the community, for example, by municipalities, and the producer does not really have an incentive to keep waste costs down. But when there is an EPR policy, product of producer A becomes cheaper, because the principle of the polluter pays is here, meaning that the waste cost is integrated, and because there is a design for recycling policy also, meaning that the product of producer A is cheaper than B. So it's a difference between these policies with and without EPR. In our European Waste Frame Directive, there is an Article 8 about EPR, and it says that member states may take legislative or non-legislative measures to ensure that there is an extended producer responsibility for producers. Now, in Flanders, we have an EPR for 15 different waste streams. And in fact, we have 3 different kinds of EPR. First, we have the acceptance duty, you see on the left. It's for 9 different waste streams. Also, you can see the waste electronics, the WE, and also other waste streams such as end-of-life vehicles, waste tires, and so on. I will discuss the policy of the acceptance duty later on. Next to that, you also have take-back duty for packaging waste and collective plans for some other waste streams. But the difference is that we have the most strict legislation for the waste streams that have an acceptance duty. The collective plan is not it's less strict than the acceptance duty. Because I don't have much time, I will only discuss the acceptance duty policy. So basic principles of the acceptance duty are that the producer and importer is responsible for the collection, treatment, and recovery. So he bears the full responsibility for them. Next to that, there has to be a widespread collection network around the country where consumers can dispose of their WE free of charge. And it's as well for household WE and for business WE. And for the municipalities, there has to be a full cost payment, but only for household waste. For business to business waste, municipalities are not responsible to collect them. For household waste, it's the responsibility of the municipalities to collect, but they have to be paid to do that by the producers. So all the costs that are associated with collection of waste streams under acceptance duty, it is the responsibility of the producers that they bear the costs of that. Now, producers who have an acceptance duty, for example, producers of WE, of EEE, electronics, they have two options if they want to oblige to the legislation. First of all, they can join a collective scheme. This means that, in fact, before there can be a collective scheme, there has to be a negotiated environmental policy agreement that's between the federations of producers and the government. And when this has been agreed, there can be formed a management body which takes over the obligations of the individual producers. The collective scheme, and the individual producers can join this scheme. The second option is the individual scheme. Producers can comply individually by composing an individual waste prevention and waste management plan, and it has to be approved by the government, by the Public Waste Agency. Currently, there are 8 companies which have such an individual plan for waste electronics. At the moment, you can see the names of the companies. It's largely for non-household WE, such as professional IT equipment, large printers, automatic dispensers. And in this individual waste plan, it has to be described how collection, treatment, prevention, and reporting will take place. And yearly, producers with such a plan have to report to the Flemish government. Now, for the collective scheme, I talked about the environmental policy agreement, and here are some basic principles of that. So I said that it's negotiated between the government and the industry, and the negotiation is between Flemish government and the big industrial federations. So we have a federation here in Belgium for producers of cooling and freezing appliances, but also for ICT equipment and so on. And it's with these industrial federations that we sit around the table to negotiate this policy agreement. And in this policy agreement, everything about collection, treatment, prevention, reporting will have to be described in detail. And then when there is an agreement, a management body can be set up to carry out the tasks in the name of the representative federations, and of course the individual producers. And each 5 years we have a new policy agreement. Here you see a schematic overview. So basically, the manufacturers and importers, they join our collective scheme. It's Recupal, it's the name of our collective scheme. We only have one collective scheme for waste electronics. So they become a member of the scheme, and they pay an environmental contribution for each product they put on the market. But in the end, it's the consumer who pays the environmental contribution. So he pays it to the retail, and it goes from the retail to the importer or manufacturer. So in the end, Recupal has with these environmental contributions, they can pay for the collection and treatment of the waste electronics. So they have individual contracts with the municipal civic amenity sites, but also with the retail sector where we is being collected, also with reuse centers where we is prepared for reuse, and they have contracts with recycling companies. Each year, Recupal has to report to OVAM, to the Flemish government. And in this report, they show us how many we is collected, how it is being treated, and so on. And this is in fact the same for producers which has an individual plan. They also have to report on the same subjects. Here you see an overview of the Recupal structure. So Recupal itself is an executive organization. It's in fact an coordinating umbrella organization with a board of directors. But underneath of that, there are different sectors. For example, for SDA, for audio video, for ICT, for cooling and freezing, for garden equipment, for lighting equipment, and for medical appliances. So each own sector has its own board of directors. And this is important because each sector has a separate, the financing is strictly separated. So members of, for example, Recupal ICT will not pay for the recycling of appliances that come from audio video, for example. So it is strictly separated. And the members of Recupal are, of course, the individual importers and manufacturers. Here's another overview of the financial structure of a household WE environmental contribution. So you see that the consumer pays, for example, €1. It goes to the retail, goes to the wholesale, and to the manufacturer. But nobody gains money on this €1. It's going from the consumer to the manufacturer, importer, and to Recupal. And Recupal, well, they manage all the collection and recycling of the waste electronics. Now about the collection structure, here in the Flemish region, but also in the Walloon region, we have a lot of civic amenity sites, container parks we call them. And you see that the second on the slide, more than half of all the WE that is collected is through these civic amenity sites. So that's very, very important for our collection. Second important, it's 30% of total volume is being collected through the retail. That's all the major shops where you can buy electronics as a customer. They are also collection points of waste electronics, and more than 3,000 of these EEE shops, they are a Recupal collection point. Then next to the retail and the civic amenity sites, we have private collection points, but that's not so much, only 5% of the volume, and also the reuse sector. The used goods centers, they also collect WE, but only the WE that is potentially that can be potentially reused. So they prepare them for reuse, and that's about 10% of total volume that is collected by these used goods centers. So in total, we have more than 4,000 collection points in the year of 2011. Here you can see some figures of the tons that are being collected. So in 2011, we had about 110,000 tons that was collected, and you see each year there has been an increase in the collection. This is a structure of the collection in our country. You can see that the consumer, he has three options. He can deliver his waste electronics to used goods centers, then it can be prepared for reuse, or he can bring it free of charge to the container parks, or he can bring it to the retail when he buys a new appliance. The shop is obliged to take back the old appliance free of charge. Then, of course, the WE needs to be bulked and sorted in different fractions, and this goes on in the regional collection stations and in the finely meshed collection stations. There they are being bulked and sorted, and from there on it goes to the recycler. So that's basically the structure. And for this, Recupal has contracts with different collectors. For example, they have contracts for the finely meshed collection. This means contractor who goes to all the retail shops to collect the WE and bring them to a big collection station. And they have other contracts with companies who deliver the bulked WE in different fractions, and they transport it to the recycler. So there are all different contracts that Recupal has for these things. Now about the recycling. Of course, the recycling has to be done according to environmental requirements, and the contracts that are being closed with contractors, it's based on these strict environmental requirements. And the sorting and recycling, well, it's in 5 different fractions because each fraction is being treated differently. So the WE is being sorted in these 5 fractions. You have televisions and monitors, you have refrigerators and freezers, big white goods, lamps, and another category with the rest of the appliances. And on the right, you can see the legal targets for recycling, and next to them the targets at what is achieved by our collective system. And you see that all the legal targets are being met by our collective system. Next to general targets for these different fractions, we also have targets for the materials inside of the WE. The ferro, non-ferro, and plastics we also have targets for. Now, treatment, when it goes from a collection station to a treatment center, the first step is the manual dismantlement of dangerous components. For example, the CFCs in cooling and freezing appliances, the picture tube of monitors. Firstly they have to be manual dismantled. After that, there's a specific treatment according to which fraction it is, mechanical or chemical. Sensibilization is also an important part of the duties of the collective scheme. They are legally obliged to put up sensibilization campaigns for as well as for companies as for consumers. So here you can see two examples of sensibilization actions of our collective scheme. Now, mainly I have talked about household WE until now, but there is also the non-household WE, the more professional appliances. And there's a different financial structure for them. For household WE, we have an all-in environmental contribution, meaning that the contribution it covers all the costs for collection, transport, recycling, communication, reporting, and administration. But that is not the case for non-household WE. For non-household WE, for example, a big server or a big printer that is not for household consumption, there's a different financial structure. There is an environmental contribution for each product put on the market, but it does not cover the cost for communication. It does not cover, I'm sorry, it does not cover the cost for collection and transport. Only the cost for communication, administration, and reporting to the government is implied in that fee. So no operational costs. This means that when non-household WE is being discarded off, normally it's the one who discards the WE that has to pay for the collection and recycling for it. That's totally different from for household WE, where all the costs are incorporated in the contribution. Then to end, some words about the charter system. That's a system for B2B waste electronics. On the one hand, we have all the services that Recupal delivers, and you can always go to free Recupal channels when you want to discard of WE. But for companies, it is a different situation. They cannot go to the civic amenity sites because it's only for household waste. For business waste, they have to contact a private operator. But Recupal, they have contracts with these private operators who collect and recycle WE. So when you work as a company who discards WE, when you contact a collector of WE who has a contract with Recupal, the price for collection and recycling is not incorporated in the environmental contribution, so it can be freely negotiated between the discarder of the WE and the collector of the WE. But because the collector has a contract, he is obliged to take this we to an operator who also has a contract with Recupal. And because they have a contract, they collect and recycle we according to certain environmental requirements. Of course, because they have a contract, they get some revenue from Recupal to bulk the we and to recycle and to report to the collective system. So that is basically a system for business to business waste. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you all for listening. And when there are questions, I believe they can be asked at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri, for your presentation. Now I'll give the floor to the Carlos Hernandez. Carlos, the floor is yours. Please go ahead your presentation. Carlos Hernandez. Oh, he's disconnected. Hello, everyone. It seems there's a technical problem from the Carlos side. So meanwhile, we'll have the Q&A session concerning the previous two presentations. If you have, I've noticed like several questions from the participants. It's time for you to ask a question. You will be given the floor when your raised hand is noticed. And for those of you whose microphone does not work, please type your question in the chat window and then send it to me so that I will read it out your questions. And in addition, please introduce yourself before you ask the question so that others will know where you are from and where you are at work. Thank you. Yeah, there's a hand from Miguel Araujo. Please ask your question. Miguel Araujo, the floor is yours now. Okay. Okay, there's another hand from Vincent Chiere. The floor is yours, Vincent.
Very much. Thank you very much for the offer. And Dimitri, I like the presentation. I want to find out from maybe other participants which I am okay. Sorry, I'm working on e-waste related projects in Germany currently, but my study area is in Ghana. I want to find out in which African country or developing country is really practicing the extended producer responsibility.
Okay, thank you, Vincent.
Yeah, thank you
for your question. And Dimitri, would you like to answer the question?
I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, but I think you were asking in which African countries there is an extended producer responsibility. I'm not really aware of that, so I really can't answer that question since I do not have much contact with African government people on this subject.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri. Can anyone answer to this question? Carlos or Patrick, maybe?
Thank you for your question. This is Patrick speaking, and as far as I know, South Africa has extended producer responsibility in its legislation currently, and I think Kenya is working on it right now. That's all I know. But maybe some other participants have better information.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed my reconnection for a moment.
Carlos, your microphone is okay now? Carlos?
Yeah, it's working, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. For all the participants, we'll have the Q&A session after the Carlos presentation. Thank you for your cooperation. Carlos, let me give you the board, and please go ahead your presentation.
Okay.
Now the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay. Did you see the presentation? Hello.
Hello,
Did
Carlos.
you see the presentation? Yeah?
Yeah, you can click your presentation.
Did you see my?
Yeah. Is that your presentation, right?
Right.
Okay, please go ahead.
Let me try it. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you the experience of Colombia in the management of e-waste. I would like to share with you during these minutes these points. First of all, a little information about Colombia. What has been the approach of management within Colombia? What is the current status, especially with generation, legal framework, and implementation? What is the recycling infrastructure, and what are challenges we are facing right now? Just to contextualize the topic, Colombia is a country with 47 million inhabitants and a little more than 1,100,000 square kilometers. There is other information, but it's not relevant right now. Well, as mentioned above, I work for the Clean Production Center as a coordinator for the e-waste project. This project has been funded by the Swiss government through the Secretary of the State for Economic Affairs, being EMPA the international executor because of its extensive worldwide experience. In fact, EMPA is, in a large way, responsible for the advances shown by Colombia in the last years. As you are aware, EMPA is working in Switzerland as auditor of collective systems at Vehicle Recycling and Sense. Yeah? Yeah, I was saying that EMPA is working in Switzerland with the collective systems at Vehicle Recycling and Sense in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment. Our e-waste project began in 2007 and ended last year, 2012. On the right side of the bridge, we see the Colombian actors. Within the framework of the project, we have interacted with public entities such as Ministries of Environment, Ministry of ICT, mainly, and the program Computers for Children, and also with private entities such as the CCIT and the National Association of Entrepreneurs, ANDI, which is the industry association most large and important in the country. With these actors, a technical committee was created in 2009 to discuss the approach we wanted to give to the management of e-waste in the country. Of course, there were many difficulties to be faced in the operation of this public-private table, but progress was made principally on regulatory issues. Here we can see the main aspects that have been taken into account for the management of e-waste in our country. I would like to note that the extended producer responsibility has been one of the main pillars for the generation of take-back systems currently operating in Colombia. About which generation, some diagnoses have been developed to determine the amounts of some streams of e-waste generated, such as computers, cell phones, refrigerators, televisions, video and audio equipment. And furthermore, the country has been taking a normative development, as we shall see later. It is also important to know that for the proper functioning of the take-back system, such as vaults and computers, the government that has offered the National Association of Entrepreneurs, ANDI, has been a key factor of success. Let's see some data about the amounts on we estimated generation. As has been the global trend, the generation of e-waste in the country has been increasing. It is estimated that by 2012, it could have been generated about 180,000 tons, including the 10 categories considered in the WE directive. This means a generation of 3.9 kilograms per capita. Speaking only on computers and peripherals, it is estimated that in 2012 were generated about 15,000 tons. The formal recycling companies have also been increasing. However, the amount recycled by formal enterprises is still low, as you see, more or less 27%. It is also important the jobs generated by this recycling industry. This slide shows the estimated quantities of computers generated by 2020. And this other shows the generation of some household appliances. I will not stop too much on it. Let's see the development of the legal framework. In July 2010, The Ministry of Environment issued 3 resolutions on separate collection system and environmental management of e-waste. Resolution 1512 for computers and peripherals, Resolution 1511 for luminaries, especially bulbs, and Resolution 1297 for batteries and portable accumulators. Although it was not mentioned explicitly the extended producer responsibility, this principle is accepted implicitly by imposing obligations on the producer to make the collection and environmental management of devices once they become waste. These resolutions define as producers to the manufacturer, importer, assembler, in the case of a computer, and to which distribute with an own brand. The products covered by this resolution are defined according to type classifications, as well as annual production. In the case of light bulbs, the standard applies to those producing 3,000 or more units per year, and in the case of computers, 100 or more units per year. This resolution requires submission of a plan that must be approved by the National Environmental Licensing Authority. There are collection goals that are based on units put on the market 2 years earlier. For computers, this goal starts with 5% and increases by 5% each year until reaches 50% in 2021. Although the spirit of the role is based on the EPR, all actors have obligations defined. Activities such as storage, treatment, utilization, and disposal require environmental license. Here is a summary of the responsibilities assumed by each actor. For example, producer is responsible for all the financial system to organize daily operation and to give information to consumers. Producer holds the full responsibility for the system. In the case of consumers and distributors, for example, distributors, they are liable to give logistic support to producers' programs. Dismantlers and recyclers, they are liable to dismantle according to the national and local environmental requirements regarding license. And logistics contractors and collectors are responsible for transport from suppliers and collection points to recyclers. This slide shows a summary of the responsibilities of environmental authorities. The Ministry of Environment, as maximum body control, are responsible for issuing the specific regulation and public policies on waste management. The National Authority for Environmental Licenses are responsible for the assessment and monitoring the payback systems, and the local authority, environmental authorities and municipalities are responsible to support producer programs. They are responsible as well for the surveillance and control of the management activities. Sorry. There are currently several take-back operating programs in the country. For example, expired medicines, tire, pesticides, batteries, but there are only 2 of them for e-waste. The implementation of take-back systems could be individual or collective, as Dimitri said before. There are 2 individual systems for bulbs and 1 collective system, covering together 80% of the market. The collection goal for 2012 was 1,200,000, and it was reached. For computers, there are 13 individual systems system. This is the newest collection system of all. So the target set for 2012 for the last year were not met. Annually, the national authority follows up on the goals through annual reports that producers must submit. And this national authority generates administrative acts to accept, approve, or deny, and also to impose specific obligations to the programs. I would like to talk a little about the collective system for computers called EcoComputo, because it was something that we strongly support from the project we coordinate. It is an Andy-led initiative supported by the project. Currently, there are 42 companies, including OEMs, importers, wholesalers, and local assemblers. The market share of this company is approximately 46%, and this collective is open to new members. And it is functional from January 2012. The target for EcoComputo in 2012 were 461 tons, but only were collected 150, and arguably was a learning year. So far this year, they have collected 90 tons. Another important aspect of the legal framework is a specific bill for e-waste that has already been approved by the Congress of the Republic, and is expected the presidential approval in the next month. One of the most important features of this project is that it sets guidelines for the adoption of the public policy for waste management, and it applies for all waste categories. Currently, we only have computers and bulbs. This bill defines the e-waste as a residue management differentiated, of course, according to the Ministry of Environment directives. And one of the important things of this bill is that for the first time, it is called the APR as a principle in our legislation. Now, I quickly comment something about the recycling infrastructure in the country. The common practices are disassembled, plastics recycling, copper recycling, ferrous metal recycling, printed circuit boards are exported, and hazardous and non-hazardous waste are disposed. In the case of hazardous waste, they have to be disposed in a secure landfill. Since 2000, more than 120,000 species have been donated to the program Computers for Schools. The refurbishment is one of the aspects that has been very important here in Colombia. There are several formal companies authorizing for dismantling, but only 3 of them have years of experience and have established joint ventures with some international recyclers. There are a growing interest of new companies entering into the market. Also, there are 10 formal companies authorized for collection and storage only. The formal PC's recycling capacity is about 20% of total generation, and there is a high collection efficiency by informal sector, more than 50% of computers. And companies mainly provide service business to business. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in the short term is the implementation of the law that is next to be used. How to achieve institutional coherence and participation of all stakeholders is something we must solve. About the recycling infrastructure, the challenge is how to achieve the best valorization of waste and proper disposal of non-recoverable fractions. Another issue that concerns us, and which we are currently working on, is the adoption of technical standards for the management of WE, which could be adapted to the reality of the country. And the last item, we must know how to establish a regional strategy for the environmentally sound management of WE, but following the guidelines of the Basel Convention. It is a big challenge we have. Here there are some websites that I often recommend. At the top right, you can see our website, RIE.org.co, where you can download the diagnostics and other studies that have been developed under this project. Thank you very much.